So we're going to look at how we actually build rapport. Like I said earlier, if you go on a lot of sales training and you watch a lot of videos on channels such as LinkedIn, people often talk about building rapport, but they don't actually tell you what it is or how you go about building it. So I think we need to go back to some definitions again. So let's actually define what rapport is. I'm using the English Oxford Dictionary once more. It's a noun. So rapport is a noun, a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. Now, the key to this, I believe, is the word communicate, because again, as I mentioned earlier, part of your job as a professional salesperson is to be an expert communicator. So if we want to communicate well with our customer, we want to develop some rapport with them, because as the definition says, if we develop rapport, it is a close, harmonious relationship which facilitates communication effectively. So rapport is essential if you plan to influence somebody. Of course, so influencing somebody is very, very difficult, as you'll find. I mean, you can even be in agreement with somebody over something, but they still probably won't do what you're asking them. So rapport is an absolute prerequisite to be able to influence somebody. Without it, you'll find it very, very difficult. If somebody doesn't like you or the communication isn't flowing, and I think we all know when we're speaking to somebody where the communication isn't flowing well. Similarly, I think we all know when we're communicating with somebody and we are getting along. We know it's going well, and that generally is because we've built some rapport. Let's look at the rapport pyramid. So I love a pyramid and I love a diagram, and we can see here that it shows the different stages we need to move through to develop true rapport with somebody. Okay, so down the bottom stage of the pyramid is polite conversation, social convention. Now, I don't know if you remember from the last presentation, I hope you do, jot it down if you didn't, that social convention in conversation is an important part of building rapport with somebody when we first meet them. It would be really odd if you jumped in straight away with a new customer or somebody you're meeting for the first time with deep, meaningful, heavy subjects straight away. It would be odd, and you would find that people would not like that, because I'm going to put on here an arrow which looks at trust and how as we're starting to develop rapport, we start to develop trust with somebody. Now, it's a very sensible thing not to be trusting of strangers straight away. I mean, it's a survival mechanism. Think about it. If you were to trust everything that somebody you'd never met before said, it would be really, really easy to con and lie to people. So we have this inbuilt facade, which is to protect us, which is we like to go through these different stages before we're open and we're ready to trust somebody. So the next level up is facts and information. So this is where most salespeople get stuck, in truth, is you have the polite social convention. You don't open the call gaining permission to actually ask some questions and interview the customer. So what tends to happen is they dive straight into delivering facts and information to the customer. And what tends to happen is it falls on deaf ears. There isn't an awful lot of trust built up at this point, and as a result, most of the words coming out of the salesperson's mouth they're forgotten. How can we actually accelerate this process of building rapport? So you'll see in red here, ideas and opinions, feelings and emotions. This is when you know you're starting to develop rapport with somebody, is when you start to discuss your ideas and opinions with them and your feelings and emotions. Now, this is the danger zone. Okay, this is the danger zone. What if you bring something up? What if you bring an opinion into a conversation with a customer and they don't like your opinion, or they don't agree with your ideas? Or worse still, you start discussing feelings and emotions and you find that you have vastly different feelings and emotions about a topic or a subject. That will give you the opposite of rapport. That will give you the opposite of harmonious communication. I mean, think about it. You meet somebody and they express an idea or an opinion you don't like. What is your response? You shut down to them. You don't like them. You instantly don't like them. You don't want to deal with them, and the conversation breaks down. We can't afford to do that in a sales job. Okay, so if you want to be the guy or the girl that goes out there and can build rapport with people really, really quickly, we need to find a way of getting into the danger zone of asking discussing high risk, subjects, feelings, emotions, ideas, opinions, because that's a high payoff. Because once we get into that and we find we have some common ground with the person we're speaking to, then we start to get authenticity and congruence. And by congruence, mathematical term, congruent triangles that are the same effectively. We're being authentic, the customer's being authentic, and we find that we have some common ground. We find that we have overlapping feelings and emotions and ideas and opinions. And it's about finding common ground. And once we've found common, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything with a customer, but what it means is if you can find that common ground, that's when you develop trust and rapport. And you will notice the body language changes and suddenly the person is communicating with you differently. Now, let's think about this. So you're new to sales, you're in your very first call with a customer who you've never met before. I'm going to pose a question for you now. Maybe pause this slide and have a good think about it. Is it realistic to expect to achieve true rapport? So remember what we were talking about a second ago in terms of what true rapport is and the different phases we go through on your first meeting with a customer. I would suggest it probably isn't a realistic objective. There's certainly ways we can start to build rapport, and we're going to go through them now, but on your very first call, if you're expecting to develop true rapport and authenticity and congruence with a customer straight away, you're probably going to be disappointed. Because to be honest, trust in sales especially takes time. So be prepared to build rapport and build a relationship over a period of time. Now, if you're short of time and it's a one-off sale, there are some things we can do to essentially start to build rapport. So the first thing, small talk, social convention, common ground. So we don't have to discuss, so if we get into this danger zone, we don't have to discuss really, really tricky topics. To begin with, you do want to come up with things which are fairly benign. So in Britain, we are classically here, the English especially, are classically famed for talking about the weather. I think the Europeans find it amusing that we always, brilliant weather we've been having recently, or terrible weather, or it's been raining. Now, it may sound stupid, but it's something that's easy to agree with. Yeah, I'm sure you'd agree with me on that. So if it's been raining outside and we both go, terrible weather, it's small talk. It follows a social convention that we're all familiar with. We're all familiar with people discussing the weather in this country. So it makes you feel at ease. It makes you think this person is like me, they're fairly normal, and I'm going to speak to them. Now, you can't, as we said earlier, if you get stuck in this phase and you don't move it on quite quickly, you will be very boring to your customer group and you'll be ignored very, very quickly. So I'm talking about just when you initially meet somebody that you follow the social convention. Don't get too heavy too quickly, as I just mentioned in the conversation. People that do this, there's lots of people that want to go heavy really quickly. Don't want to discuss, kind of it's almost like a fashionable thing. They don't want to be seen as someone that discusses trivial matters, and they want to be seen as someone who's either serious or someone that wants to discuss politics straight away. Be careful doing that. Don't get too heavy too quickly in a conversation, because you're in the danger zone too quickly. And if you get in that danger zone too quickly and you say something that someone doesn't agree with, then boom, it's all over right at the outset. You'll find that person will form a judgment of you and they won't like you. So don't be over familiar either. It's not genuine. I particularly hate this. I'm a fairly friendly, open person, a fairly friendly sort of open face, naturally sort of smiley person. However, I really don't like it when people are over familiar with me. When on the first meeting somebody starts to make judgments about me and will say things, that they'll kind of even if socially they're too close. We talk about personal space. And if someone's in your personal space and they're being too overly familiar and you don't trust them yet, you don't know them, it doesn't feel genuine and it's a real turn-off. It just seems desperate, and I would strongly recommend, if you are the sort of person that is a really touchy-feely, over-familiar person right straight off the bat, just be a bit careful. Just make sure you're being authentic. Make sure you're being genuine. So how can we accelerate rapport? So we're seeing this customer for the first time. We're seeing this, we haven't got a million calls to make on this customer. We've got deadlines, so we want to try and accelerate the rapport. How do we do this? Prizes for guessing, maybe pause the video, maybe have a little think, maybe jot down some ideas at this moment. So get to the danger zone. Get to the chopper, as Arnie would say. Now get to the danger zone. So we want to get to the danger zone. We want to get to discussing thoughts and feelings, emotions and ideas and opinions and things like that. The things that we can then start to build some congruency with our customer, so they think they're, this person's like me. This person shares some of the same beliefs and ideas as me. But as we said earlier, how can we do this safely? How can we operate in the danger zone without upsetting people? Feelings, emotions, ideas, opinions. By asking, not telling. So we're going to come on to personality styles in a moment. In the next section, we're going to discuss Carl Jung and his theory. Remember that name, because I might be asking you that question in a moment. We're going to be discussing with you the idea of the different personality types that are out there. And one of the axes on how we communicate on there is asking and telling. Do you ask people things or do you tell people things? Now, naturally, many salespeople, as we'll come on to, fall into a naturally talkative personality style. And that tends to err towards that salesperson telling people things, telling customers people things, rather than asking. Now, if you want to get into this danger zone with the minimum risk to damaging the relationship and maximum payoff by accelerating the rapport you're going to build with this person, ask them, not tell them. Ask your customers feelings and emotions, ideas and opinions about things. Once you've gone through the social convention, maybe a few facts and figures, how about just asking a few genuine questions? Did you see the news last night? What did you think? And get them to open up, get them to talk about what they thought. That starts them talking about them. We all love to talk about ourselves. We don't like somebody imposing their opinion upon us. So get the customer talking about their feelings and emotions, ideas and opinions. And by doing this, it shows real interest. You will be showing some real interest in this person. You'll also be getting them talking, so they'll be ready for the next phase of the call, which is the interview stage, where we want to find out their needs and their explicit needs and the things they want to achieve. So by doing this early on in the process, early on in our introduction phase, our Monday phase of the sales call, we're actually going to accelerate the whole process. So like I say, use harmless subjects as well to get this moving. Maybe a question around something like, what do you think of the Palestinian-Israeli situation? It's a bit of a tongue twister, that. Israeli situation is probably not a great question to be asking, because that can be really quite a polarizing subject. You want to try and choose subjects that are, they get the people talking about themselves and their ideas and emotions, but something that is not so dangerous that it could blow up in your face. And then mirror and agree with the person. So if we're trying to talk about developing congruency, now I'm not suggesting for a moment that you agree with everything that your customer says. If they're coming out with views and opinions that are distasteful, that are clearly wrong, then I'm not telling you to go along with them. And that's why I'm telling you that, I'm asking you to be careful how you go about doing this, and the subjects that you ask them about. Be careful, because to gain the congruency that we're talking about, to actually get up this pyramid of rapport by mirroring them, so physically mirroring the body language, physically mirroring the mannerisms that person and the speech patterns that person's using, and showing agreement with them, that's when we accelerate rapport. That's when suddenly they will be thinking, either subconsciously or consciously, this person's like me, and I'm comfortable now to open up to them. I'm going to be receptive to what they've got to say in the next phase of the sales call. Let's think about psychological reciprocity as well. So we've now got this person on, and it's a big word, and I'm going to explain what it means. So when I first heard it, I didn't know what it meant. So don't feel silly if you don't know what it means. If you do, 10 out of 10, you're clearly very brainy and clever, and you'll have no problem acing the rest of this course content. So we've now got a bit of rapport with this person. We've got some common ground and some kind of congruency, some areas we agree on. We've got a bit of rapport going. If we really want to seal the deal, we want some psychological reciprocity. You need to make your customer feel good. You need to make your customer feel significant about themselves. So you remember the emotional needs that we talked about earlier? We know with the main emotional needs. If you can make your customer feel significant, if you can make your customer feel like they're important at this stage in the sales call, right at the opening, It is the key to the other phases of this call. So how do we make somebody feel significant about themselves? Pay someone a compliment. Really easy. A really easy way is to pay someone a compliment. Now, you can praise someone's professional achievements. I would suggest that's probably a good one in a business setting. You could compliment them about their appearance, but that can be quite dangerous, even if it's something that you perceive as being positive. Just be careful. I mean, if they're a person that clearly has a very distinguishing feature that they might be self-conscious about, I would suggest you don't draw attention to something like that. But just, keep it fairly light-hearted. Like I say, praising someone's professional achievements is a really, really clever way of doing this to make them feel significant. Look them up on LinkedIn before your meeting. Look them up, do a quick Google search, find out what have they done that's significant, and praise them for that. Tell them, I was really excited to meet you today. Given that I saw earlier that you've published data in this particular area, that's going to make that person's day. They're going to feel significant, and you're going to be the person that's done that. Do something meaningful for that person. So even if it's something as silly as buying them a coffee or something. Now, I'm not talking about bribing. We're not talking about bribery here. We're just talking about doing something that shows forethought and that you're actually thinking about that person. So it could be something as, I brought you this invite to this meeting, or I was thinking about how I could add some value to this meeting today, and I've decided that there's Congress that I could invite you to. All of those sorts of things will help you look like you actually care and will make that person feel significant. And you'll see this is a theme that will run through this training, is at all stages. If you make someone feel significant and you make them their chimp feel good about itself, the chimp that is, as we said earlier, is 10 times more powerful than logic, they will subconsciously want to repay you for making them feel special. They will want to buy from you at this point. So a lot of the objections that you might get, a lot of them they'll go out the window. They may well have objections to your offer that you're about to uncover with their needs and pitch to them. But if you've made them feel significant and you've built a bit of rapport, they're probably liking you right now. And we know that people buy from people, yeah? And this is why people buy from people, okay? I cannot overemphasize this enough. If you can do this in the opening phase, the Monday phase of your sales call, you will find that you will win. So, summary, how do we build rapport? We start with social convention, okay? We small talk, we break the ice, we get people comfortable, we get them, going through that pyramid of rapport. Then we move to the danger zone. And how do we do that? We talk about feelings, emotions, ideas and opinions by asking, not telling them. We ask them opinions and we choose subjects that are not so dangerous that we run the risk of causing offence or them saying something that we find impossible to agree with and to have congruency with. And then finally, you need to make your customer feel significant, massively significant. If there's one thing you remember from this training, one thing that you go away with, you must make your customer feel significant. You must make them feel important. You must make them feel they'll matter, because if you make someone feel significant, they will want to be your best friend forever.